And welcome. I always don't know how to start these videos, but we've started, so we will definitely carry on. Okay, so where did we get to last time? One way of reminding ourselves would be to have a look at the thumbnail that I created for the last one. So, all right, we're applying for a job that doesn't exist. I think we know that. And, yeah. Right, so we were filling out this table here. And so if I go to the big screen, now it's a bit annoying because we've gone off the bottom, and that really troubles my mind when we can't get it to fit on the page. So we just need to reduce. These are the important tasks of the day. We need to reduce one of the row, one of these sentences a little bit so we can fit it onto one row. Because I think if we go up by one row, then we can resolve this spilling over into the footer problem. But let's not try to address that just yet, because we're going to do a really exciting thing next. We're going to work with a AI assistant to generate some dummy demands, some dummy projects, some dummy whatever we would want to call them, concepts. Let's call them concepts at the moment, actually, because that's what they are. We're not sure what shape they will take when they enter into the portfolio, whether they'll be projects or yeah, I was just thinking about whether we could use some agile terms, like whether they would form like user story. Well, let's not get then too far down the agile road now, because that is probably a whole series of videos. But it's not probably, it is a whole series on agile. So let's not get too distracted by if something's going to be agile, delivered under the agile framework or not. Right now, we're only interested in the intake of work into the portfolio. So let's fire up my good friend Claude. Just doing this off screen for a second because I don't know what my latest searches were. I don't know if there's anything sensitive in there, so there shouldn't be. Right, okay, let's go into this. Let's go in here. Okay, so I set up a project in Claude to which has got some of the prompts that we've been using so far. But I think what we can do, so some of the prompts that we had so far were, God, I can't even remember what the original ones were. But anyway, anything that I've done to do with this project, I've put in here so far. So there's only 2 conversations. But I think what would be really fun to do is to feed in the approach that we're taking to assessing the value and risk of a project as it comes in, of a concept as it comes into the portfolio, or potentially comes into the portfolio. And if we take this concept of asking these questions and giving these responses, we can feed all of these questions into the large language model. And that was it. Yeah, we had a good conversation with Claude previously around defining stakeholders in the business and the areas that they work in. So what we could do is feed in all of the questions, and then once we've fed in all of the questions, we'll ask it to kick out some fictional concepts and then score based on these. And what we'll do is we'll take those and we will create a list of demands, and we can start to work through those demands and assessing the risk against it. And what the output from this will be, well, it'll hopefully look something like this, where we've got the concept funnel. So this is what we'll generate using the large language model. But then the output will be a prioritization matrix of stuff that we want to bring into the portfolio. So this is a bit of fun. Now, it's going to be a bit of a grind to start off with, because we need to copy across all of this information. But actually, in doing so, I think that we can get some benefit out of this video. Instead of you just watching me copy and paste, we can talk to Claude to explain what it is we're doing. And I think explaining what we're doing in Claude will be really useful for me to go back over, like the approach that we're taking, and to explain as part of this video the approach that we're taking. Okay then, so let's start a new conversation. So, right, so, hey Claude, hope you're having a wonderful morning. Smiley face. I certainly am. I woke up feeling really positive about a project, a personal project I'm working on. This is the next step, in applying for a fictional job, I want to discuss the process I'm working on, which relates to the intake of work into a portfolio of change. This is the next step to applying for a fictional job. I want to discuss the process I'm working on, which relates to the intake of work into portfolio change. I'll explain where I'm at in the next prompt. Okay, let's get into this. I really look forward to a conversation with Claude. Having conversations like this, you always get something fun out of it. Okay, right, good morning. So glad to hear you're positive and energized about your project. That's a wonderful way to start the day. It really is a wonderful way to start the day. I do feel really good. I did wake up feeling a bit stressy today, but I did what I normally do. I had a cup of coffee, and this morning, because I felt like I needed to calm my brain down, I decided to have a cup of cacao and sat and did a breathwork exercise. Pardon me. Sat and did a breathwork exercise, and after I had my cacao and my breathwork exercise, and then had a cold shower as well, felt like a new man ready to take on the day. So that was all good. Really, really cool. Right. Okay. Looking for. I'm really interested to hear about your work on the intake process of portfolio change. That sounds like a thoughtful, strategic piece of work. Take your time explaining where you're at. I'm here to listen and help however I can with the next step of this fictional job application process. Right then. So I want to understand, as part of managing a portfolio change, we want to ensure we are taking on the correct pieces of work. We are taking on the correct pieces of work. So, what do we mean by correct? We want to take on, what do we want to take on? We want to take on concepts that deliver the right value to the business. What do we want to do? We want to maximize value and take on the minimum amount of risk. For our investment. So what do I mean by correct? We want to take on concepts that deliver the right amount of value, that deliver the most value to the business. We want to maximize the value and take on the minimum amount of risk for our investment. To do this, I am proposing we ask a generic set of questions at the intake process, at the intake stage of assigning work to a portfolio of change. To do this, I'm proposing we ask a generic set of questions at the intake stage of assigning work to a portfolio of change. I'll list each of the questions in the next prompt. Before I do, I'm going to explain how we calculate the risk, the value and risk. How we determine the value and risk from these questions. Now, what's important here, what's really important is the value and the risk is not the actual value of the concept or the piece of work. It's not the actual risk, it's the relative value and the relative risk. Because to repeat what we were talking about yesterday, what we want to do now is to look at all of the items in the portfolio of change and know if one's more valuable than another one, know if one's more risky than another one. We can get into the details afterwards on how much value it generates, or what risk it mitigates against, or whatever the concept might be that we're looking to implement. So tracking benefits is a whole different discussion. But at the moment, it's just about the relative value and the relative risk when you compare different concepts against each other. So to repeat what's going on in this sentence, before I do, I'm going to explain how we determine the value and risk from these questions. It's important to note that we are determining the relative value and relative risk of each concept, prior to taking something into the portfolio. I might be repeating myself in these sentences, but I'm doing it on purpose to make sure that the large language model really understands what we're trying to do. Now, that might be overkill, but I'm doing it on purpose anyway, just to hammer home the points. It's important to note that we're determining the relative value and the relative risk of each concept prior to taking something into the portfolio. By knowing where each concept ranks relative to each other, we can determine which concepts oh god, now I am really repeating myself. By knowing where each concept ranks relative to each other, we can determine this can help next to each other. This will assist in prioritizing what concepts we wish to move forward with. Not happy with that sentence, but that'll do. Further to this, I want to explain the ranking system. Right, so I'll do this in the next prompt. Right, I'll do this in the next prompt, but how does this sound so far? Do you understand what we're trying to achieve? Yeah. Yeah, let's see what it has to say about this. Yes, I absolutely understand what you're trying to achieve here. It sounds like a really solid approach. To summarize back on what I'm hearing, the goal is to ensure that the portfolio of change takes on work that maximizes business value while minimizing risk relative to the investment. Yeah. Use a standardized set of questions that will help you assess each concept initiative. Key insights: you are focusing on the relative value and relative risk rather than the absolute measure, which makes perfect sense for prioritization. By understanding where each concept ranks compared to others, you can make informed decisions about which initiatives to greenlight and in what order. This is a smart framework because it creates consistency in how you are evaluating opportunities, allows for objective comparison between different types of initiative, helps surface high value, low risk opportunities, provides defensible rationale for portfolio decisions. I'm ready to hear about the specific questions in the ranking system you've developed. Okay, very good. This sounds like exactly the kind of structured thinking that would impress in a job application scenario. Nice. Real nice. Right then. This is why I love talking to Claude. Gets you so buzzed up. Okay. I'm so buzzed after reading your response. Let's get into it. I love the energy. Let's do this. I'm all in. I'm ready to dig into the details. Bring those questions to the rankings. Okay, then. Before I post the questions, before I post the questions here, I want to explain how the responses will work. Before I post questions here, I want to explain how the responses will work. To start, each question is assigned to either each question is assigned to either a value related each question is assigned to is categorized as either value or risk. Then we have the question. And there will always be 3 responses. There will always be 3 responses. Then we have the question, and there will always be 3 responses. The responses are categorized as high, medium, and low. So what do I mean? What do I mean? The there would be a worded response under each high, medium, and low. And whichever category you respond in assigns the high, medium, or low to the question. So for value, a high response would indicate a more favorable response because its relative value is high. Favorable. Good God. I definitely don't know how to spell response. Favorable. Whereas a risk question with a high answer is adding more relative risk to a concept. We would go onto scoring each response with a number value that is weighted. Okay then, so an example of this, of this for risk will be a score of 1 for low, 2 for medium, and 5 for high. Because a high risk concept, because any high risk responses should be weighted higher. I'm not really explaining why there. Okay. Right. Are you following? How does this approach sound? Before I post the question here, I want to explain how the responses will work. To start, each question is categorized as either value or risk. Then we have the question, and there will be 3 responses. The responses are categorized as high, medium, or low. So what do I mean? There would be a worded response under each high, medium, and low. Whichever category you respond in assigns a high, medium, or low to the questions. So for value, a high response indicates a more favourable response because its relative value is high, whereas risk, with a high answer, is adding more relative risk to the concept. We would go on to score each response with a number value that is weighted. An example of this for risk will be a score of 1 for low, 2 for medium, and 5 for high, because any high risk responses should be weighted higher. Are you following? How does this approach sound? Yeah, I'm totally following you. This approach is well thought out. Let me reflect back what I'm understanding. the structure. Each question is tagged as either value or risk. Each question has 3 preferred responses, high, medium, and low. Each assessor selects which response best fits the concept they're evaluating. Yep. Scoring logic. Value related questions. High response is good, relative, high relative value to the business. Risk questions. High response is bad, high relative risk. The weighted scoring, so the low is 1, medium's 2, high is 5. The weighting is key. You're not using 1, 2, 3, or you're using 1, 2, 5 for risk to ensure high risk items really stand out in the scoring. This prevents high risk initiatives from sneaking through just because it has a high value. I'm curious, what's the scoring weight you're planning for the value questions? Would it be something, 1, 2, 5? Or are you using a different scale? This framework is coming together nicely. It certainly is. Okay. I'm thinking of using the same weighted scale for value. Yeah. This creates nice symmetry, nice symmetrical system where there's highs, high value concepts get significantly rewarded and high risk concepts get significantly penalized. The weighting emphasizes the extremes in both directions, which can help service the truly stand out initiatives. Once you've scored all the questions, okay. Once you've scored all the questions in the concept, you'll presumably have a total value score, sum of all the values, yes, and a total risk score, yes. Then you can compare the concept in a value to risk ratio, value score minus risk score, and plotting them on a 2x2 matrix. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing the 2x2 matrix. Or 3x3. I think it would be 3. I think it. You got it. You got it, Claude. I do think the prioritization matrix will be 3x3 though. What's it got to say about this? Yes, 3x3 makes perfect sense with the high, medium, low. So you've got the 2 axes, golden zone, high value, low risk, golden zone, quick wins. Do these first. Yeah, nice. Oh, dead excited about this. 3x3 gives you the middle ground. Okie dokie. All right, I'm ready to receive those questions. Okay, so here's the questions. Bear with me. This is going to be a bit of a... Can I just copy question 1? Let's see how it understands me just pasting it in like that. See if it knows that those are the 3. Yeah, nice. Nice. Excellent first question. This is the foundational one for any portfolio intake process. Strategic alignments. The progress is really clear and logical. The progression is really clear and logical. This makes total sense as your opening question because strategic alignment should be table stakes for any for entering portfolio of change. If something isn't aligned to strategy, why are we doing it at all? Great question. I particularly like the distinction between contributor and critical pillar. That nuance is important. A concept could support multiple objectives in small ways, be a contributor versus being an absolute essential to deliver a strategic goal. This would help immediately identify strategic imperatives, nice to haves, pet projects. Keep them coming. Question 2. Okay, question 2. So question 2, does this concept positively affect a key performance indicator? This pairs beautifully with the strategic alignment question. KPI value impact. No, doesn't move the needle on KPIs. Yes, has a minor impact, has a significant impact. This adds a measurable dimension to your value assessment. Strategic alignment question 1 tells you about the direction and intent, but the KPI impact tells you about tangible measure outcomes. Hey, cat. My cat's come to say hello. Should we get him on the big screen for a second? There he is. Such a good puss. Such a good puss. He's such a good puss. Such a good puss. He's such a good puss. Meow, 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 meow. Good puss. Right, I need to carry on. This works well. It adds a measurable dimension to your value assessment. Strategic alignment 1 tells you about the direction and intent, but the KPI impact tells you about the tangible, measurable outcomes. It's entirely possible to have scenarios like high strategic alignment but low KPI impact, lower strategic alignment but higher KPI impact. Yes, we were discussing this yesterday. Together, these two questions start painting a picture of both why we're doing something strategy and what we're achieving in terms of the KPIs. I can already see how concepts will start to differentiate themselves in this scoring. Nice. Right. So I'm just going to move that over here. I'm going to put this here. This is so much fun. Question 3. This is a good one, Puss. This is a real good one. Does the concept generate revenue or avoid spending? Perfect. Question 3 adds the financial lens to your assessment. Low, so there's no direct value, no direct revenue generated or cost avoided. Has a minor impact, has a significant impact. So maybe it'll talk about having to define what we mean by minor and significant. Now you've got 3 complementary dimensions: strategic, operational, financial. This creates a balanced scorecard approach to value. Yeah, nice. Be strategically critical but not revenue generating. Compliance and infrastructure. Drive KPIs. Generate revenue but not be a strategic priority. The real gems will score high across all 3 dimensions, while this framework also helps you justify the non-strategically important work that might have an immediate financial returns. Great. So now we're into risk. So now we're into risk. Excellent. And now we're into the risk questions. This is a crucial one. So risk, legal or regulatory compliance. Okie dokie. Okie dokie. Right. So, yeah, there's a minor and there's major non-compliance. This is really useful as it introduces a forcing function. This is really interesting because it introduces a forcing function. Unlike the value questions, high score here, major non-compliance, might actually make the concept mandatory to pursue. Oh, so regardless of its value scores, you can't just ignore it. Yeah, of course. So this creates a different portfolio scenario, compliance-driven initiatives, must-dos, as opposed to others that are voluntary. Yep, this distinction is important. Some concepts in your portfolio will be choice-driven, while others are compliance-driven. Okay. The beauty of our framework is it surfaces this explicitly. If someone scores high on this question, it immediately flags for leadership's attention. That it does. Next. Sorry, just had to move something for my cat. I can't think of a medium response for this one. Can you help, Claude? Is the concept related to employee or public safety? Okay. Is the concept related to employee or public safety? No. The medium response I'm struggling with on this one. But the yes is that it mitigates against loss of life or serious injury. Injury. Absolutely, this is a critical question. Finding the right middle ground is important. Question 5 is related to risk. Oh, cool. Yeah. So, yes, it addresses safety concerns that could lead to near misses or minor injuries. Yeah, let's go with that. That's really nice. That's really nice. Got that. Oh, hang on a minute. It's switch. I put no. Is the concept related to public safety? Option. Oh, right. Yeah, those are all options for question 2. No, I like the near misses and the minor injuries one. It mitigates against risk of minor injury or safety concerns, improves safety conditions with moderate consequences. No, I think option 2 is good. I'd like to leave to option 1. Mitigates against minor injury or safety concerns, safety incidents. No, I'm going to go with option 2. I like option 2. Okay. Yeah, like the previous one. So if it scores a high on this one, then it might be non-negotiable. So it's probably important to put that somewhere later on, that if some things are high on here, then in fact we don't want to lose sight of that. So let's make a note on here. If responses to questions. Responses to questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. To questions 4 or 5 are high, they must pass through the intake process. Okay. Great. Thank you for helping with that one. I went with option 1. Okay. What time are we on? 7:08. It's 7:08. Right then. Next. When does this ask need to be fulfilled? Excellent. This adds a time pressure delivery constraint to the dimension of your risk assessment. It certainly does. Fixed deadlines create pressure that can lead to rushed decisions, scope compromises, resource conflicts, higher likelihood of failure. Yeah. This often intersects with regulatory deadlines, safety improvements, strategic objectives. A concept with a high value and a fixed delivery date is going to need more careful resource allocation and risk management. Certainly is. Right. Okay then, so the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The next, because this portfolio of change is within a data and analytics department, I have some engineering related questions. Next, there are, how many have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 risk related questions. So then, hello, Pussycat. Look who it is. Can you see his head? Oh, Puss. Can't see the screen. Right, here's the first question. Is the data currently available in our data warehouse? Well, as I said yesterday, I'm still not quite happy with the wording of data warehouse. Great to start engineering questions. This is the foundation. This is foundational for any data analytics initiative. Risk, data availability. So risk point 1, yes, everything's available. Some data's available. No, data's not available. Yeah. Why this is crucial for data analytics. Data availability directly impacts timeline, cost, quality dependencies. The concept that scores high on value but also scores high in the risk of this question is essentially saying we want to do something valuable but we don't have the data to do it. This is a red flag for timeline and budget. Great. Next is this. Do we have data quality concerns? No concerns, don't know, untested, yes. Known, not know, known. Brilliant. This perfectly complements the previous question. No concerns, don't know, untested, yes, known issues. Pairing is perfect. Do we have data? Is the data we have or will get any good? Why don't know, untested? As medium is smart. It acknowledges that uncertainty is risk. Yeah. Damn right. It acknowledges that uncertainty is risk. Conduct data profiling and quality assessment, build validation rules, potentially discover issues mid-project. Yeah, so there's lots of risk associated with that. But positioning known issues as high makes sense because you know that you need to address these things. This is a classic data and analytical nightmare, building beautiful analytical solutions on top of garbage data. Garbage in, garbage out. True that. All right, here we go. Here's a big A. GDPR. GDPR. Should we consider GDPR PII? Excellent. This is a critical risk question for any in today's regulatory system. Why is this essential? Yeah, so legal exposure, technical architecture, governance, security. Absolutely. This also intersects with question 4, question 6, and question 7. So question 4, legal, regulatory, timelines, and data availability. All good. What is the volume of information required to maintain the ask? Can you help me with this one? So what is the volume of information required to maintain the ask? Low, medium, or high? Can you help me with this one, please? I'm trying to ask a question related to the overall overhead required to process the data. Large volume does not exactly mean large risk if the data is not complex or has high cardinality. Do you get me? Let's restructure this sentence. Let's restructure this question and responses around the overhead required based on how much data we need and its complexity. Thinking, processing. Absolutely, I get you. You're trying to capture the technical complexity and processing overhead, not just the raw data volume. A billion rows of simple data. A flat file might be easy to process than 10,000 rows of highly nested JSON with complex relationships and transformations. True. Here's a restructured version. Question 10. What is the technical overhead required to process and maintain this data? The the low response, low complexity, simple data structures, minimal transformations, straightforward processing, moderate complexity, some nested structures, moderate cardinality, standard transformations required, high risk, high complexity, complex data structures, high cardinality, significant transformations, and computational intensive processing. Oof. Oof. Yes, that'll do. Or a slightly more condensed version: low, simple structures and processing; moderate, some complexity in structure and transformations; high. Yeah, let's go with the condensed version. So I'm just going to copy that question across because, yeah. And so the low response is that, the moderate is that, and the high is that. Perfect. I'll go with your suggestion. I'll go with your suggestion and the shorter responses. Awesome. Almost done. Almost. This really gets the engineering reality. Yeah, it certainly does. Next. See, again, I'm not overly... So this is, it's very kind of fixed on 1, 2 to 5 over 5 source systems. I'm going to say, if you were to critique this question and make it more general, how would you approach this? It concerns me that the business has changing volumes of systems it uses. So a fixed range might become obsolete over time. Yeah, having like, 1, 2 to 5 over 5. Excellent point. You're thinking about longevity and scalability of the framework. Fixed ranges indeed become arbitrary as the business technology landscape evolves. Here is a more general future-proof approach. What is the source system integration complexity? Single source, well-established standard integrations, multiple sources with some integration complexity, many sources. That's a better question. That's much better. Thank you, Claude. That's a much better question. Thank you so much. Oh, what is the level of external system dependency? No, I'm going with number 1 because I love it. I love it. Right. Option 3. How many teams? Single teams, fewer teams? No. I have gone with option 1. Oh gosh. Okay. Final group questions now. These are related to the final product. Okay. Who are the consumers of the information in the audience? The tiers refer to levels in a organization. Example, senior leadership would be a tier, as would management and operators. Maybe we can reword this one to make it a bit more clear what we're asking. Getting hungry now. Ooh, you okay, puss? Gently does it. Come and see. Okay. Absolutely, I see what you're getting at. The more organisational levels consuming the product, the more complex the requirements, and the higher the risk of misalignment or competing needs. Yeah, that's true. How many organisation levels? Okay, then, so the options. How many organisation levels will consume this product? Single tier, only senior leadership. Yeah, I kind of get what it's doing there. Okay, so the next option. What is the breadth of the stakeholder audience? Single organizational level with aligned needs, two organizational levels with somewhat different needs, multiple organizational levels with diverse needs. I love that one. So the third option, requirement complexity. How many distinct audience segments need to be served? Single audience with consistent requirements, two audience types with different requirements, multiple audience types with competing or diverse requirements. That's very similar to, I'm going to go with option 3. How many distinct audience segments need to be served? Nice. Let's change it to that one. And the response is single audience, two audience types with different requirements, multiple audiences with competing or diverse requirements. Okay. Perfect. I went with option 3. Ooh, we've already got 4 more questions. Hallelujah. What is the volume of consumers? Less than 1,000, 1,000 to 10,000, greater than 10,000. This captures the scale. And more users means more performance, scalability, support burden, change management. Yeah, rolling out changes to 100 people versus 10,000 is very different, of course. Impact of failure, availability expectations, diverse use cases. Yes, okay, so that's cool. Next, we've got right. So we've got the volume of consumers, and then we've got how frequently they need the updates. Ooh, okay, boss. Perfect. This captures the refresh frequency and the operational complexity of the product. Right. Why update frequency is a risk? Pipeline complexity, infrastructure costs, failure impacts, monitoring requirements, daily refresh, data freshness dependencies, SLA pressure, yeah, testing challenges. Pretty cool. Second to last question. What type of data product is required? Raw data. Ask a question of data, conduct my analysis, provide analysis. Excellent question. This captures the analytical complexity and accountability of the product. So do they just want raw data? Do they want to ask a question of data and then conduct their own analysis, or do they want the product to provide analysis? The raw data responses, yeah, it's just an engineering and access question, ask. So a self-service analytics would be the second one. And then it's worded it as prescriptive analysis for the high one. Self-service analytics, prescriptive analysis, stakeholders, high stakeholder alignment needed on approach. Yeah. Greater accountability if insights are wrong, complex logic to build. Yeah. And we're on to the last question. And the last question is how complex is the route to adoption? Perfect final question. This captures the adoption and change management risk. How complex is the route to adoption? High complexity means extending training programs, slow time to value, resistance to change, support burden, risk of failure, lower return on investment. This is a comprehensive framework. Let's summarize what you've built. 16 questions, 3 value ones, 13 risk. We've got foundational risk, engineering risk, product risk. Amazing. Thank you so much for your help. Let's save this and revisit tomorrow morning with the next steps. Okay, Claude, you've outdone yourself. I think working together. What a productive session. You should feel really proud of what you built here. I am really proud of what I built, thank you. This is a solid work for a portfolio management approach. especially tailored for the data analytics context. The level of detail and strategic thinking here would definitely impress any job application scenario. Rest up and come back tomorrow morning with the same positive energy. Nice. And that is exactly what we will be doing. Well, I've got to go to work now. No rest. Right. I'll see you tomorrow or in the next video. Bye bye.